Meantime, though, we do have to turn to the very latest on the politics front as early voting is underway as we speak for the August 11th special Republican primary for U.S. Senate. This is part of the race to fill that seat of the late Senator Lindsey Graham. Now, there have been some pretty big developments in recent days here with this race, as we know that a Richland County judge has recently ordered the South Carolina Election Commission to include Danny Ford II on ballots after some legal battle. And Mr. Ford's joining us right now to catch us up to speed on the very latest with this legal fight and chat a bit more with us as well regarding the race itself. Danny, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Vanessa, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we understand some of the recent news here. This judge has ordered that you can be on the ballot after initially what we saw the state Republican Party decertifying you alongside two other candidates, I believe it was, for this race. This was all pertaining to voting record, not voting in the last three, I believe it was, Republican primaries. And I know that you're...
Three, I believe it is.
Okay, 2 out of 3. Your team challenged that on the basis of, it sounded like, fairness in application to other candidates in this race, right?
Yes, ma'am, I believe so. I'm no lawyer. I leave that work to them, but definitely, it was very confusing on what the defined primary was and how it was applied, for sure.
Yeah, we had seen some legal argument from your team as we were following up on this news from yesterday that they hadn't applied the rule fairly to other candidates. We understand it sounds like the party is now filing appeal. Have you gotten any update on that?
I have not. It's so hard to just, to campaign and to much less switch from one to the other. I have a new respect for anybody that actually does campaign. This is my second state run and the first time of politics. So, I've got a good feel for what these people of service get out there and do. And, it's not easy to put yourself out there, and to fight a lawsuit on top of that is definitely difficult.
Well, as we understand it now, at the very least, you are on the ballot alongside a rather large field of many other candidates. Let's go ahead and talk about why you want to run for this position.
Yes, ma'am. It's agriculture. I have a strong background in, and that's my passion. And so, seeing a lot that they deal with, as well as everything else in the country, it gave me the drive to get involved. I've always kept my head down and been 110% trying to produce for the community and for South Carolina. And it just got to a point that I felt that there needed to be intervention, and we needed some blue collar folks up there that really understood what we are facing, and securing sustainability, education, and affordability into that. And that's what I've taken up as my cause, South Carolina First C program. And so I'd love to answer any questions about that you might have.
Yeah, I guess let's talk about some of the topics that are most important to you. You mentioned your agricultural background. We understand that farmers have been going through some things pretty recently for a lot of different reasons. Tell us about how that's been and some of your priorities for your campaign.
Yeah, so sustainability, that's 68% of our food comes from another country. We're only 10% sustainable for the state of South Carolina. So I really feel, I have a 1 and a 4-year-old. I would love to leave them with a better South Carolina and more sustainable South Carolina than we have in place. And, right now the DOJ is actively investigating the 4 big meat packers on collusion. They control 85% of our meat processing. So that right there is a huge problem of just commercial farming at its best and blocking some of us producers out. I think right now our farmers get 8 to 10% of the food dollar, which is pretty sad. These people, men and women, wake up and work hard and try as hard as they can for their community. And we need to give them the tools that they need to be able to operate like these 4 big packers. As well, it's a huge topic right now that's coming across for farmers. I understand a lot of other people might not understand it, but we have the lowest cow herd in the United States right now, and they're talking about opening up the Mexico border and bringing cattle across for that through the USDA, and the screwworm problem. I'm sure that y'all understand that's a huge issue, and that's been blocking that. So we need a good program to treat these cows before we bring them into the United States and put that extra burden on farmers.
I mean, we understand, since you mentioned the screwworm issue, that this was something that was pretty closely monitored for many years in our country, and for various reasons, it sounds like some of that surveillance has been cut back. Would you be open to advocating to return some of these programs back to their prior status, or beef them up, if you will, as far as trying to tackle that front?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was actually dozed out just because they didn't understand that the way the program works. It's a fly breeding program that produces sterile flies, because after that fly reproduces one time, it dies. So if it reproduces with a sterile fly, there is no fly that is put back into the surrounding environment. And, that's something that we have to continue to stay up on, no matter how much under control it gets, because it's always going to be an issue. It always has. I think the last time we eradicated it was like 1950.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it was dozed out. That was the so-called Department of Government Efficiency that Elon Musk headed up for a period of time. Did you disagree with then some of the cuts that department or that board made during its time in operation?
I just disagreed with that one. I think it's hard when you're not a farmer. I don't blame anybody, but when you just don't understand what's going on, it's hard to make an educated decision on that. To the average person that looks out there and sees, hey, we hadn't dealt with this for nearly 70 years, that it might not be an issue anymore. But that's something that's going to persist, and we're going to always have to keep an eye on. So I think that it's worth it to our people of the United States to actually keep that one in place. That's just one that I know very well. I can't speak for the whole Doge and how much they cut. I know they did a lot of cutting of stuff that didn't need to be in place, but this one in particular, it did. And if someone would have been up there to maybe advocate for that, it might have saved us a lot of affordability and not seeing the beef prices up so high that we're seeing right now.
Now, I guess my other curiosity, since you do come from an agricultural background, is some of the impacts that we've seen from the new tariffs. And I know that some of these have been rescinded, but we understand the president wants to institute a new round of tariffs. And we also know that the Iran war has been causing some issues as far as fertilizer prices. Do you have any sort of insights that you'd like to weigh in on how you're feeling, or how you think farmers are feeling, and whether that's a fair impact to correlate between those two, the war that I mentioned and the tariffs, and what farmers are dealing with right now?
Oh, absolutely. That once again, that's why we need that voice up there that just really understands the impact of each one of those things and how it coincides with affordability. There's a time and a place for anything. A tough time to do that would be in spring for farmers when they're planting. That's when they're putting the most fuel in their tractors and combines and different things, as well as fall. Winter, we don't do much as far as fuel is concerned. So, we could really have somebody up there that understands the environment that our number one industry in South Carolina, agriculture, is involved in, and can really just help make some decisions that would just make it better, and make it not hurt these farmers quite like the way it is if you do something right before planting season that they'll have to deal with. So yeah, I think that I'm a valuable voice in that aspect, and just being able to sit down and talk through that and letting them know what the worries are from the other side of the working person in South Carolina.
Well, we alluded to this just a few moments ago, the fact that you are running amid a very crowded field. What do you think in particular sets you apart from the other candidates?
I'm blue collar. I've always been a hard worker. I know what these people face every day, and I'm results driven. I like to see results. We just came off of the longest government shutdown in history, so that's a huge deal that affected many farmers and many service members. So, I am results driven. I would be up there working on that nonstop until they get what they deserve, because I understand how that affects them. It's really not something that I would be able to sleep with if I know that the men and women of South Carolina and the United States are not getting this because of a disagreement or something in that nature. I think that it's really worth digging into and trying to figure out a solution to the problem instead of just continuing with a government shutdown.
All right. Danny Ford II, we appreciate your time here on Live Impact News. Feel free to catch us up to speed with any new developments as you're able to, both with your legal fight and with your campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Y'all have a blessed day.